But there's a lot of virtue for spending time watching familiar wildlife that often is on the doorstep. You can make observations that are very, very special. And young naturalist Lizzie Guntrip is doing exactly that. Now, Lizzie, you've spent a lot of time really concentrating on wildlife and, and really absorbing the benefits of it for you. How did that all begin?
I'd always loved wildlife. I've always been out to nature reserves. My parents took me out. It was a big part of me. But in 2011, I became seriously ill. I was diagnosed with ME, which stands for myalgic encephalomyelitis. It's a long-term illness, and it affected me quite badly. I was basically housebound. I was stuck in a bed. We live in the suburbs of London and are lucky enough to have a garden. So we put the bed right next to the window, looking out over the garden. And I just was able to study that small area. And I got a lot of pleasure from doing that.
Well, we'll talk about exactly what benefits that brought to you as well in a few minutes. But you've made a short film, haven't you, with Lindsay Chapman. So we'll have a look at that now.
Hi Lizzie.
Hello.
Hello, welcome to Leighton Moss Nature Reserve here in the northwest. It's lovely to have you here. We're just sitting in the herbal garden area here on what is a little bit of a damp day.
But it's not too bad now.
We don't mind. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. How have you come to be on Autumn Watch?
Well, back in the spring I wrote a piece for their blog. Because I've been a fan of Spring Watch and Autumn Watch for 10 years. So since I was about 10, I've been watching the show.
Good.
And in 2011, I became seriously ill. I was diagnosed with ME. It meant I couldn't go out, I couldn't leave the house. I was housebound for about 18 months. And the show was just a way for me to connect to nature. It was something I hadn't appreciated in the show before, how it bringing nature to your door was so important. So I've loved the show and wanted to tell them about it. So I wrote the blog and I went from there.
And that must have been a pretty difficult thing at the age you were at. I imagine your friends are out and about, you know, possibly going off and walking in the countryside and doing the things that you'd like to do.
Yeah, it was really hard. It's horrible. I'm getting better. Not there yet, but
you say wildlife's played a key part in allowing you still to have a feeling of being outside and doing those things that other people are doing.
Yeah. So even if it's just a photograph or just an image on the TV screen, it can really lift your spirits. And I mean, there's been studies that prove that just a photo can help improve your cognitive functioning. So it's really important and really, special, and it meant a lot.
Tell me about your blog.
I wrote a blog for Autumn Watch, for Spring Watch, on Spring Watch for the housebound. So it was just about what it meant for me.
And you're watching Autumn Watch this year.
Yes.
What have been your highlights so far? What would you like to see on the reserve?
Well, I've heard there are bearded tits, and I'm from London, and so that's just like amazing. I would love to see them. So. I hear they're in the morning only, so they sort of hang out in the grit trays in the morning, so maybe tomorrow I can pop down and have a look.
They are here bright and breezy. I did manage to spot a pair,
oh, really?
Which is an absolute treat because I've not seen them before either, so I hope that you are able to see them. You're going to be on the show.
Yes, yeah. I want to tell people about my story and about what Spring Watch has meant to me, because I think it's an area that's not discussed as much, that, I don't know.
What has it meant
really
to you?
Important. It gave me a way to connect to nature. It gave me a way to smile when I didn't think there was anything to smile about. It's brought me a lot of joy, and it's also educated me. I've been watching it for about 10 years, and probably 2/3 of everything I know about wildlife I've learned from Spring Watch. So yeah,
that's brilliant. And you know, you're doing really well. It's fantastic to see you here. Do you have kind of good days and bad days?
Yeah, definitely. So as I say, the first 18 months I was just at home. After that I could maybe go out once a fortnight. So this is the biggest trip I've ever done, but I really wanted to come here because it's like my thing. I love it so much.
What a special trip. Thank you so much for coming.
Okay.
And your blog is connecting with other young people who are possibly feeling the same thing, may well be in a similar situation to you.
Yeah, there were some amazing comments on the bottom of the blog that made me think, oh, I'm not alone. There are actually people who find these shows just as important, and yeah, it was uplifting to find I wasn't alone.
I'll tell you what, it's a pleasure to have you here. Enjoy looking around the reserve.
Thank you.
And extra as well. You're going to be fab.
Thank you.
Well, Lizzie Guntrip there. If ever we need a promotional video for the watches, then Lizzie ought to do it, I think.
Oh, thanks.
Seriously, apart from the fantastic advert you are for the watches, what I'm impressed by is the way you turned what was a pretty grim situation for a time around, and you
Yeah.
actually turned it into a wildlife experience as
Yeah.
well. Did it come to you that you would suddenly decide to use this time where you're confined to bed and actually make sure you watch wildlife, or did it just evolve?
It evolved. So there were a few months where I was just like really down and everything, but I couldn't stay like that. And I knew that what made me happy was watching wildlife. So my mum said, oh, maybe we could try putting some bird feeders just outside the window. And then that was a start. I could see them close up and yeah, carried on watching.
What were your favourite encounters with wildlife?
Because
you were able to watch it on a daily basis,
yes,
and did you get
yeah,
to know characters?
Yeah. So there's a little blackbird that we have in our garden. She's called Mrs. Blackbird. Very
Of course.
inventive. Yeah, she was there for like 3 years. I could like recognise her from her feathering and everything. And she would come every morning, just tap on the window if I was feeling bad. And we put food out on the windowsill, so she'd come really close. And yeah, seeing her every day, it was just wonderful. Yeah, she's my little friend.
Were you able to make any notes about behaviour? Did you keep notes, or was it more a sort of mental exercise?
It was more a sort of mental exercise, yeah, and just sort of a visceral experience of watching the seasons change and watching the birds, like the blackbird when she was molting, she looked terrible and we were super worried about her. And then she came back a few weeks later and she was fine again. So
and
it's really
did this come from a sort of a really strong interest in natural history before? You've always been interested, or did you find this strengthened it, this developed your interest?
Absolutely. So before we'd been like walking a lot and sort of travelling kind of thing, but this was more a stopping and letting nature come to you and really looking closely at the little things and the common species. And it really brought a new light onto wildlife watching.
So you saw blackbirds. What other things did you see from the window?
On our little feeder, we have robins, blue tits, great tits, long-tailed tits, which are my absolute favourite. They're so cute and fluffy. So yeah, they were really fun. And then we had foxes in our garden as well that had cubs. So that was a pleasure to see them grow up and bounce around the garden. So that was really nice as well. Just usual garden wildlife.
Well, you say just usual garden wildlife, but for you it was obviously very therapeutic. I know when I'm feeling a bit down, I don't mope about in the house. I get out there, and for me it's a sort of therapy. And I think that's the same for quite a lot of people. They think, I need a bit of an uplift. It's like a fix for the day, really. I need to see some wildlife, get some fresh air, get some exercise. Does it work? I mean, how valuable do you think the natural world is as therapy?
Super valuable. There's been over 100 studies proving that wildlife makes good physiological changes in your body. It's not going to heal me or cure me, but it helps aid recovery. So just spending time in wildlife can help the immune system. It increases the parasympathetic nervous system.
Tell me more about that.
It means that the energy in your body is taken away from your heart beating crazy and your blood pressure being really high, and it transfers it to digestion and healing and creation of new cells. So it's kind of like a restorative thing. So that's a really interesting.
So as well as just making us feel good, because we've seen a bird, however common or whatever, they're actually
intrinsically,
physical symptoms.
Yeah, physiologically, it's really interesting. Yeah,
there's a guy called Roger Ulrich, I think, isn't there? He's done a lot of work on this.
Yes, I've just been having a look because I'm interested in it. I know you've done fabulous things.
I came across his work because I think he's done work in is it North America, in the States. He's done work where looking at the power of green environments for us as well, because nobody really wants to spend all their time in a grey concrete environment, I suppose.
So the most famous one he did was in 1984. That's like kind of the pinnacle of this kind of research. And he had patients in hospital that were recovering from gallbladder surgery, I think. And half of them he had in a room where the wall where they were just looking out on a window to a brick wall, and the other half they were looking out over trees. And consistently they found that the people looking out over trees needed less painkillers, felt less anxious, had less post-operative complications, and they left hospital earlier. So it really does help aid recovery.
Well, there's a guy called, very, very famous ecologist called Edward Wilson, who thinks that we've all got this innate sense of what he calls biophilia, that there's a love for the natural world and that the natural world does things for us as well, which must be the same sort of principle. What's interesting is you've been looking at the physical manifestations of that. It really does work.
Yeah, I've been trying to, I haven't researched it, but I've just had like a think about, and I guess, is it because we've evolved to be in that environment? So when we come across brick walls and concrete, it's unnatural to us, so that automatically gets us a bit more.
I think it probably does. I think again I've read of some sort of study where the ideal situation in which we feel most at ease is big open glades in woodland, or copses in a large sort of open field.
Yeah.
I think it's because we feel safe in there, but also there must be something about beauty, mustn't there? There must be something about how we appreciate the aesthetic values of the natural world as well. But we're watching a marsh harrier sail over this marsh earlier on. I was just thinking,
wow,
it is beautiful. You can't bottle that.
Exactly.
And that's what you've been doing. You have been bottling it. So how do you feel this has helped you progress? Watching nature on a regular basis. We saw from the film that you are improving.
Yeah. So it's given me focus. It's given me something to get up in the morning. It's helped me like remember what happened yesterday and like track the changes and that sort of thing. So it's a mental exercise. And then also more recently I've been able to get out onto reserves. And that's like another step. So using all the accessible facilities and that sort of thing to to see bigger vistas and different spaces as well.
And we talked about birds as well, but when it comes to the garden, did you look at smaller things? Were you looking at bugs as well and butterflies?
Yeah,
and
the bugs,
insects,
I did the big butterfly count, which I hadn't heard about it until Springwatch mentioned it, which is one of the great things about the show.
It is, isn't it?
It tells you about things you haven't known about and things you can take part in. So the big butterfly count was 3 weeks, end of July, beginning of August, and you just had to, you could choose where you wanted to do it. So that was great for me. I could just do it in my garden. I didn't have to go to a nature reserve. I could just do what I could do, which was just poddle out into my garden and sit down for 15 minutes and look at the butterflies. And you're taking part in citizen science. Which
well, yes, I was going to come to that because the bigger side of what you're doing by looking at things individually is that actually everybody can have a go at this and they can get involved and make things count.
Yeah, exactly. I'd done science at school, I'd loved it, but I'd had to stop when I was ill. So doing this kind of citizen science was a way for me to give back and contribute and do the science that I love. So, yeah. And
what's the next step? Where do you go from here? Projects?
Yeah, well, I'll go home and rest for a couple of weeks after this. But, yeah, hopefully keep writing, keep trying to get the message out and inspire other people, keep going to places like this and gradually building my walking up and my stamina up. And, I don't know, maybe one day I can work with you guys again.
Well, you never know. You've got a bird to see here. This bird before you leave, don't you? You want to see?
The bearded tits.
Well, I wish you luck with it. If you go out in the morning along the causeway, you stand a very, very good chance. Lizzie, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you
so much for having me.
Again, an inspiration, and I hope an inspiration to anybody watching this and looking at it. You know, watch your local wildlife closely, get to know it really, really well, and who knows where it'll take you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's Lizzie Guntrip joining us now. When we talked.